Atlantis on the island of Udal. That island, the top of the Tree of Life, was the brain of Atlantis, and on it was a small city called Poseidon. This city is what Plato was discussing when he said that Poseidon bore 10 children, the 10 circles on the Tree of Life.
No,
Poseidon was
he meant the actual god.
The middle circle were the priests.
That's a dartboard, my friend.
The first thing they did when they arrived in Atlantis was try to take over the continent.
They
tried to declare war and invade. However,
because
they
they're purely logical
beings. Small
beings
numbers compared to the millions of Atlanteans, and we finally subdued them. When this happened on our evolutionary path, we now had the planetary consciousness of a 14-year-old girl. The Martians were an incredibly male species, and also very old. So what you had...
So they were like a bunch of alien pedophiles.
70-year-old man.
Oh!
He had no choice in the matter.
Oh my god!
Just stepped in and said, like it or not, we're here. Edgar Casey was channeling information for a geologist when he stopped and he said, there's something
channeling
you should know.
isn't real.
In the near future, the Earth's poles are going to shift. Casey was a brilliant man with a very strong connection to higher dimensions.
Not in a very, very, very long time.
With other scientists believed that if there was going to be a physical pole shift, there would also be a change.
There's no such thing as a physical pole shift.
Studying lava beds, geologists were able to
What did you just say, motherfucker?
Scientists believed that if there was going to be a physical pole shift, there would also be a change in the magnetic poles.
But... no, a pole shift is only a shift in the magnetic poles. Not... what's a physical pole shift? Do you mean like the Earth's spinning around? Fucking hell.
That took place was 13,000 years ago, and we will get there in the story soon.
No,
they did
that's
another
not
test
correct.
And found that it had shifted again 26,000 years ago as well. Scientists also learned that polar shifts happen very quickly. In a single day, the magnetics would do a complete flip.
No, that's not correct.
There's that number again.
No.
Within 24 hours, the sun would be rising differently than it did the previous day.
What?
This shift has happened hundreds of times.
No, the sun will rise the same.
But it's
Are you high?
And happening faster and faster. Now only 13,000 years between each shift. A whole new viewpoint is beginning to be understood. From space, would this not appear as a pulse?
No.
Now, there's a lot more to talk about with pole shifts, but I'm
what do you
going to
mean pulse? A pulse of what? Magnetism? What are you talking about?
Theory, but they learned that the surface of the Earth, the crust, could slip over the main mass of the Earth, which continues its rotation as if nothing happened.
Yes.
The crust would rotate and spin out of control until eventually it settles again in a new location aligned with the new magnetics.
What?
During this time, there are massive earthquakes and tsunamis and devastation that rock the world. Doesn't that sound a bit like the destruction described in the Book of Revelations?
No.
Many other ancient prophecies, including Nostradamus and Mayan prophecies, have talked about polar shifts in one way or another.
No, they
and modern
haven't.
science is becoming increasingly aware that there is going to be a polar shift in our near future, which is lining up with our consciousness shift, though they don't take that aspect into account.
What? What?
Birds follow the magnetics of the planet to migrate, and they'd be ending up in places they shouldn't be.
Shut
Whales
up.
were continually beaching themselves in the 90s.
Get the fuck out of here.
But the magnetics are so warped right now, it's affecting how we think and act as a planet.
Shut the fuck
Our collective
up.
social structure is related to the geomagnetics of the Earth. Or perhaps it's the other way around.
What?
There's one other thing that we need to discuss.
Human behavior is affecting the Earth's magnetic poles.
Soph lived on Atlantis for a very long time, and he told us that he saw the Earth shift 5 times, watching the sun rise in the east, and then the west, then the east, then the west. This is how to
But that doesn't make any sense.
Consciousness shift at the end of Lemuria, it sank
That's not what a pole shift is.
Rose. If the crust was spinning randomly around the
No!
planet, many geological events such as continents rising and falling would take place. Now that we have an understanding of polar shifts, we can continue with this drama on Atlantis.
Your drawing of Australia is very poor.
A piece of Atlantis about the size of Rhode Island sank into the ocean.
This
caused a tremendous amount of fear within the Atlanteans.
Wait, why?
They thought they were going to lose the whole continent.
They lost Rhode Island. That's like the worst state anyway.
Because of the consciousness shift, one of the bigger things they lost was their connection to the future. They couldn't foresee big events such as the potential sinking of their home.
But why were they afraid? Hang on. If they were unable to foresee things in the future, why were they afraid? Surely they must have had some kind of foresight. What? That doesn't make any kind of sense.
In between 13,000 and 16,000 years ago, a comet approached the Earth. Because we were living at a high consciousness across all dimensions, the Atlanteans became aware of it before it hit. A great conflict occurred in Atlantis.
They had lost their connection to the future.
Even though they were in control, wanted to blow it out of the sky with their laser technology.
Sounds smart.
However, the Nacals had learned of the comet's true nature, and the Atlanteans protested. They said that the comet was in divine order. They had to allow it to take place naturally. Let it hit the Earth. That's what's supposed to happen.
Drink the Kool-Aid!
But in the end, they gave in. The Martians agreed to let it hit the Earth.
Really?
When the time arrived, it came screaming into the atmosphere, plunging into the Atlantic Ocean just off to the western shores of Atlantis, near where Charleston, South Carolina is now. And when their anger rose to meet their desire for control, they decided to take over the Earth. They began
Of
to
course!
and create a complex like the one they built on Mars long ago to try and create another synthetic Merkaba. If they had succeeded, they would have gained control over everything on the planet, and they didn't quite remember how to do it. But they thought they did. The Martians built the building. They set up the whole experiment, threw the switch, and lost control. The destruction was immense.
What?
And this reality began to rip open the dimensional levels. Not the higher ones, but the lower ones.
What?
Because of this tear in the dimensional levels, a huge number of lower dimensional spirits and beings were thrown out of their comfort zone and into these higher levels. They were forced into a
Like
world
ghosts?
they did not know or understand.
Or
To
sperm?
survive, they needed bodies and began automatically...
Oh my god! This is Scientology? This is Ethins, whatever the fuck they're called. I swear to god. This is Scientology? This is Scientology! Ethins, yeah! How did they... What? How did they connect this to Scientology, man? Oh my god.